Small in stature but huge in heart. They're the characteristics that have given Newcastle's Mark Whiteman a great chance of claiming a gold medal at the upcoming Disabled World Games. When he takes to the gym, he takes courage to a level most people can't even imagine. Born without his lower legs and a badly deformed left hand, weightlifting seems an unlikely passion, but for Mark, it's almost an obsession. The reigning Australian title holder, he blames a poor performance at the recent national trials on over-enthusiasm.
I think I was overdoing it. I was training, say, 4 or 5 nights a week, and now I've cut it back to 3 and been put on a program.
But a poor performance by his standards was still enough to earn him a place in the national team. In July, he'll travel to Holland to take on the world's best. A dream come true for a young man who never dared hope he'd get this far.
My mother, when I was a junior, she used to take me to all the competitions, the state games and that. And I used to win a few medals and enjoyed it.
Do you ever think you'd end up going this far?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
How's it going to feel if they hang a gold medal around your neck?
It'll feel great.
Only pensioners on excursion fares are to escape this latest round of increases announced by State Transport Minister Bruce Baird yesterday. For everyone else using trains, buses, ferries, taxis and motor vehicles, the hike will have some effect. But in Newcastle, that effect will have an even greater sting. Several months ago, the state government announced the city was on target for an increase in third-party rates to bring it into line with metropolitan areas. Yesterday, it decided to introduce those as of July 1st, the same day as the other increases will come into force. The $31 hike is far greater than any other third-party rise in the state, and combined with other vehicle registration increases is going to make owning a car here an expensive process.
The simple fact is this government is driving up costs and charges more than ordinary people can take. An ordinary family in Newcastle is already $1,000 a year worse off because of all the increases in taxes and charges out of the Greiner government.
In the new system, fees for registration and transfers will all rise. Those combined with the new third-party charge will see the cost of registering the average family Ford Falcon here soar to $546. Licences too haven't missed out. 1-, 3- and 5-year licences will all rise, as will learners' permits, driving tests, even boat licences. But if these hikes have you considering climbing out of the car and onto public transport, think again. Boarding a bus, train or ferry will cost approximately 8.2% more as of July 1st. A bus fare from the city to either Wallsend, Charlestown or Cardiff will rise to $2.40, to $3.20 to Belmont and Warners Bay, and up to $3.40 for those bound for Swansea. Pensioner excursion fares will remain the same, with other concession tickets to rise by only 5.2%. On the trains, an 8.3% increase. Newcastle to Sydney return will rise to $25, while Gosford commuters face an 80-cent increase. The SRA is advising regular passengers to try and beat the fare hike by buying weekly and monthly passes. Taxis haven't missed out either. The average 5-kilometre journey with a 3-minute wait will now cost around $7.10. And to add insult to injury, if you're thinking of not buckling up while you're in the cab, you'll be hit with an $80 fine. A $5 increase for unlicensed and unregistered vehicles, $10 more for failing to stop and ignoring traffic lights, and for speeders, a $20 hike in fine for car drivers and $30 more for heavy vehicles.
This is the sign for Singleton residents to get out of town. The State Emergency Service, working with Water Resources and local police, have planned a mass evacuation of the area if the unthinkable happens.
The mathematical figures are 1 in 100,000 flood, maybe something like 1 in 1,000 years. You've probably got more chance of being injured by walking across the road.
Glenny's Creek Dam, 50 kilometres upstream from Singleton, holds more than 200,000 million litres of water, about half the quantity of Sydney Harbour. If that 1 in 100,000 floods hits, the experts say the dam's spillway capacity won't handle the flow. The water will rise above the wall, creating a vacuum and destroying the dam's base. If the water went over the top, the people here in Singleton wouldn't have much time to get out. Within 5 or 6 hours, the main street would become a river 2 metres deep. In the worst case, that river could rise another 6 metres. The SES has set up 4 warning sirens, all in hearing distance of the town's 9,000 low-lying residents. In the event of a tragedy, the sirens will signal a move to higher ground.
If it just happens tomorrow and we've done nothing, we've lost millions and millions of dollars and many thousands of people. So yes, the need for it is there. A very rare event happened out at Nyngan. That was a very large flood, but it was very rare, but it happened.
That's good. Everything's working as it should.
Yeah, that is correct. Absolutely everything works over here.
Through a complex radio system, the control base can monitor rescue plans. The system of sirens and radios cost more than $300,000 to set up. And while it's hoped it'll never be used in a flood tragedy, the SES believes the system could work in other situations such as bushfires or gas leaks. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
This is the 43rd Synod of the Newcastle Diocese, 3 days when the Anglican Church's ruling body gathers to reflect and plan. Priests from parishes throughout the Hunter region gathered tonight for the opening session and to hear the Bishop of Newcastle, the Right Reverend Alfred Holland, give his vision for the coming year. He called it the Year of the Scaffold.
It is clear that it will be several years before we have restored our city and ourselves. And we must keep a sense of perspective about that. There is bound to be irritation and frustration, but that is part of any reparation. We require a commonality in our leadership and a bipartisan approach in our vision. I know some of you are irritated by the slowness of the repairs. We have 80 church buildings which have been affected by the earthquake. It will be sensible to keep a sense of perspective and a sense of humour. And we have the chance now to do some new thinking and planning for our city. We must not botch it because of meanness of spirit or individual self-aggrandisement or poverty of vision. We could call 1990 the year of the scaffold, since there is so much of it about.
In giving his report, the Bishop spoke from the point of view of a visitor to Australia, here to observe the actions of the people.
The comments we heard about the church were that it was reactionary, brackets, you should see the way they treat women, close brackets, that it has negative attitudes, is repressive, judgmental, authoritarian, irrelevant, and little to say about real issues. Now, these impressions are, of course, wildly exaggerated, but for us, the heavy smoke suggests a fire somewhere.
Over the next 3 days, Synod will plan and perhaps revise its future direction. According to the Bishop, there is no limit to what God can do with a human life or with the Newcastle Diocese.
The synod opened last night when Newcastle's Bishop Holland spoke of the diminishing impact of the church. At today's synod meeting at Morpeth, he said he believed the next 10 years will be vital for all churches as a decade of evangelism.
Seems to me that our society today is a bit astray, and I think the church has got the answer through its teachings to make for a better society and for better people.
330 clergy and lay people from all over the Hunter are representing 68 parishes in the diocese. Today they voted to continue their support for the vital welfare work of the Samaritans. Tomorrow they will hear a report on caring for those with AIDS and vote on the setting up of an interdenominational hospice for AIDS victims. They will also hear a disturbing report on youth homelessness.
They tell me that parental abuse is endemic in our community. And Virginia Chadwick was only saying the other day it's on an enormous scale of parental violence to children. We've got to just encourage men and women to learn afresh what it is to love their neighbour. That's the crucial thing about the Christian faith, and I think that's what the church has got to offer.
A quick glimpse of the vehicles will tell you it's not an ordinary car race. It costs competitors $8,000 to enter, and each crew is encouraged to carry an additional $2,000 to be used to bribe officials. The competitors say they don't care who wins the 8-day event.
Well, I don't know if we're going to win. We're just going to do our best and just see how things come out at the end.
We won't win, we don't care, as long as we get there and have fun on the way.
Heading the 4-vehicle Newcastle contingent is Jack Mooney, a veteran of 4 Red X rallies. He is driving a 1966 Former ambulance with Brian and John Mooney as crew. Car 4 is a 1966 Ford Fairlane, entered by John Osland. The Kevin Edwards Volvo carries the number 123, while David Griffin and Brian Dermott will blaze around the course in an ex-1961 fire engine, picked up during last year's bash at Alice Springs. Newcastle's Lord Mayor John McNaughton flagged away the Newcastle entrance. The bash officially begins in Sydney tomorrow. 3,500 kilometres and 8 days later, competitors are due to finish in Burnie, Tasmania.
Bruce Webb is a 50-year-old invalid pensioner. During the earthquake, the asbestos roof of his Fleming Street home was damaged. He asked a local company to move in and clean and repair it, and that's when the trouble started.
And they climbed onto the roof and they brought in a machine, a petrol-driven machine, and hooked it up to my tap. And the next thing I knew, all hell had broken loose. There was asbestos and black water and filth flying over the neighbouring properties and on my property.
And you were inside at the time?
Inside the house and couldn't get out.
Mr Webb contacted the BWIU, not because he was a union member, but because he was worried about dust scattered throughout the house. The BWIU were astonished.
You do not use water blasting on asbestos roof. You treat it with a chemical and then just wash it down with water. You do not water blast it because the water blasting spreads the contamination further. It just takes the top surface of asbestos off and spreads it all over the place.
The union contacted the government authority WorkCover and organised independent scientific tests of the material in Mr Webb's house. It was asbestos and it was in everything. Mr Webb claims his electrical appliances shorted out due to asbestos dust in components and that fabrics in the house like carpets and curtains might never be safe. WorkCare has issued an order to the original roofing firm to clean up the dust using a recognised disposal company. It's understood that work could be underway within a fortnight. In the meantime, Mr Webb, already a sick man, says the protracted delays have deeply affected him.
How is it affecting you, waiting to go back into your home?
Well, I'm suffering stress and I can't sleep and I'm having a lot of pains in the head. and the doctor tells me it's extreme stress.
The Lake Macquarie Art Prize is now in its 6th year. All competing artists are invited to enter. This year they are asked to contribute works with a narrative theme, that is, a picture which tells a story. This allowed the inclusion of photographic images, a trend emerging in contemporary art in Europe and the United States. But what is contemporary art?
I think really contemporary art is art that's born of the ideas of the moment. It's about today. I mean, technically, I think it's really probably something since 1970. But in practice, I think it's best to think of it in terms of the ideas of your own time as they grow and as they develop.
There are 2 cash prizes offered, a $5,000 prize from Charlestown Square and a $1,500 prize from the city of Lake Macquarie. Both winning works will be announced tonight and will then become a part of the budding Lake Macquarie City collection.
Well, it enhances our own collection. It gets us more works of excellence that we can add to our collection, which is now becoming pretty substantial. And it allows Lake Macquarie people to build a collection of our own, which in the years to come will be really worthwhile.
The exhibition runs at the Lake Macquarie Gallery until the 25th of June. The winners' names on Newsnight tonight.
The heavens opened just moments before John Schuster touched down on Australian soil. The Newcastle Knights are hoping he'll produce a flood of touchdowns of his own.
We believe he's on the highest echelon of union centres and won't be long before he's at with league.
Rated as one of the best rugby union centres in the world, the former All Black is confident he'll be quick to adapt to the professional code.
From what I've seen, from what I've been told, and that hopefully it won't be as hard as as it looks on TV. And my immediate goal, of course, is to make the grade here in Sydney with the Knights, and what happens after that is a bonus at this stage.
The Knights had organised an immediate medical for the Kiwi, but he assured them it wasn't necessary.
We've heard a lot about your hamstring. How's that holding up at this stage?
Oh, it's 100% fit now.
Now seems certain to play some part in tomorrow's reserve-grade clash with the Bulldogs. Bruce McKenzie, NBN News.
Newcastle's town clerk at home today celebrating his Queen's Birthday honour for service to local government. A teenage Barry Lewis started his council career as a mail boy. His first Lord Mayoral ball now only a distant memory, the city's town clerk has weathered a 40-year career studded with the highs and lows of public office. Today's honour came as a surprise to the man who's spent all his working life with Newcastle City Council.
Well, it's a great honour to me, and I think it's a great honour to local government, and for that I'm very, very pleased.
The highest honour locally went to Newcastle University academic Professor Geoffrey Kellerman. Professor of Medical Biochemistry and Deputy Dean of the Medical Faculty, he's had a long and distinguished international career in biochemical research. Named an officer in the General Division, Professor Kellerman says the Queen's Birthday honour acknowledges the work of he and his colleagues at Newcastle University.
I take it as a token from the government that they accept that science matters. It's been one of the problems that our community doesn't involve itself enough in science. We don't have enough really good students going into the science faculties and studying science. I'd love to see more come in because it really is a fascinating career.
I was thrilled with the award, and
and very proud to be thought of and given that award.
The Australian Police Medal went to Newcastle Chief Superintendent Russ Cook. A young Constable Cook started in the force in 1951. He's given 39 years of city and country service, but the greatest challenge in his career came with the Newcastle earthquake. There's a long tradition of policing in the Cook family. With a father, a stepfather and now a daughter in the force, Superintendent Cook sets exacting standards. He's a man who's not had a sick day in 39 years.
And my father always reckoned that it was a waste of time being sick, and I suppose that's wiped off on me a bit.
Queen's Birthday honours also went to Michael Dudman of Cook's Hill for services to music and Toronto naval engineer Wilfred Ellis for services to marine engineering and naval architecture. Colonel Peter Sabri was named a member of the military division as Commandant of the Singleton Infantry Centre and Military Area. Medals of the Order in the General Division went to Edward Benson of Nelson Bay, Enid Shannon of Tuncurry, Ruth Dirks of Dungog, Ronald Ferrier of Adamstown Heights, Joyce Friend of Curry and James Kennedy of Foster. And an award too to one of the region's high flyers. Peter Norval, the first Australian to fly solo around the world in a fixed-wing aircraft, was honoured for his services to aviation.
Newcastle Police Division began its crackdown early on Friday afternoon with patrol cars taking to the highways and busiest roads in force. Late this afternoon, police were cautiously describing the blitz as one of their most successful ever, reporting only a handful of minor accidents. There was plenty of revenue raised from those unlucky enough to be caught. 3,307 random breath tests were conducted and 57 PCA charges resulted. The mobile radars were out in force and it was tough going for the Leadfoots. 446 speeding tickets were handed out, 1,216 traffic infringement notices were distributed as well, including 48 for people not wearing seatbelts. Further up the highway at Raymond Terrace, 242 people were caught for speeding, 33 of those on the slant radar, while 358 infringement notices were dished out, and there was 19 PCA charges as well. Further inland, Maitland Highway Patrol was responsible for stopping 315 speeding motorists, 17 of those in heavy vehicles, including one tourist bus. As well, there was 358 infringement notices and 20 PCA charges. On the Central Coast, police at Woy Woy had the dubious honour of charging the state's allegedly most drunken driver with a reading of .250. Another two motorists were stopped after being involved in an alleged high-speed chase on the F3 freeway. One woman on her P-plates clocked at 172 kilometres an hour, the other at 174 kilometres an hour. Both were charged with low-range drink driving.
Scott Carter may be out with a broken jaw, but it didn't stop his enthusiasm for a bet or two. However, joining Carter on the sidelines is a disappointed Paul Harrigan.
I've been to the doctor helping who's looking after us up here, and it looks like a good 3 or 4 weeks, so I'll be out for a while, mate.
But the buzzword of the day was Mark Sargent's inclusion in the New South Wales State of Origin side, and no one was more delighted than his front row partner, Peter Johnston.
I can't say a more deserving front rower in the comp than Mark. I think he really deserves it. He's had his heart set on it for a long time, and it really deserves it.
Down to the serious business of picking winners, and Jeff Doyle, Tony Butterfield and Marty Creaker, all stars in the win over Canterbury, were eyeing the field in the Newcastle Knights handicap. While they were looking for good odds, Alan McMahon and youngster Joshua Grice from East Maitland drew the winner of an autograph footy. For Terry Smith, it was a super day. To coincide with the program, race 8 was the Knights handicap over 1,400 metres, and the rage was Costa del Sol, and jockey Mark Lynch was vying for win number 4 for the day. Costa del Sol, far too good for the opposition, started at 11-8 in favourite, with the place getters at 10s and 33-1. It wasn't hard to gauge Mark Lynch's feelings.
Yeah, going well today, 4, that's good. I wish every Saturday was like it.
And two of the night's superstars, Steve Fulmer and Peter Johnston, were on hand to congratulate the winning connections.